Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host, Bryan. We're going to continue on with this week's theme of folk music without metal. Of course, we're going to be checking out a track from the Decemberists, which we have heard from before. In fact, if I remember correctly, based on this thumbnail here, I've actually listened to something off of this very album. The track we're digging on today is On the Bus Mall, which I don't even know what that means. So let's dive into this and see what the Decemberists are bringing for us today.
Our shoes were our showboats we kicked around. From stairway to station we made
Has this really nice flow to it.
With the gadabout crowd. And oh, what a bargain, we're two easy targets for
everything feels so very far away.
Who paid in crumpled old dollars, which we squirreled away in our rat trap hotel by the freeway. And we slept in Sundays. Your parents were
okay, so that was a really neat, filling in of the sounds. So the song is in 4/4, but a lot of the vocal rhythm is based in groupings of 3. Really nice, almost like feeling out of place. We even have a 3-3-2 here. Which they're intentionally adding that element into the 4/4, which is typically symmetrical, putting asymmetry in it. What is a bus mall? I really like that dynamic element there of crescendoing back into this.
Among all the urchins and old Chinese merchants of the old town, we reigned at the pool hall with one iron cue ball, and we never let the bastards get us down.
I really like that wavy sort of ephemeral vibe that's going on in the backgrounds. It's very like dreamlike.
Our hands tightly holding
it's also a bit dreary.
We're down on the bus mall. We're down on the bus mall. Down.
Yes, so that's very cool. They took what was a 1-bar phrase and turned it into a 4. Maybe they took a 2 and turned it into a 4 there. Yeah, the subtle decrescendo here. Yes. Good stuff. Where do I start, though? Where do I start on this? There's so many things I want to talk about first before I begin to forget little nuances. I wish I could just like have 3 of me come out. Just start rambling, all of us, on all the different topics. Let's start with the opening. Seems like a good place to start, right? The beginning. That's where most people start things. I had mentioned that it sounded far away. I actually played with my volume a couple of times, but I didn't want to boost it too high up because we were about 85% of the way on the volume. Like I've mentioned before, I checked the audio of the songs with my headphones off. I don't want to spoil anything, to make sure that the highest moment of the track is the loudest moment for you guys. It's all stabilized at the same volume. So I knew that we hadn't hit our max, but it also felt so far away that I was like, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Why can't I hear what's going on? It sounds so distant. And it had that really cool fade in. Was it like 20, 30 seconds in? Where we faded the rest of the band in, and we kind of widened it out through a fade in. And it was very cool because it almost sounded like that core acoustic guitar section. Like it was just like the middle, right? And we filled in below it, we filled in above it, we filled in around it and within it. It was very cool just to kind of feel. It's almost like you have a circle, like a solid circle you're dipping into paint, and when it hits that surface of the paint, you can kind of see where the paint begins to wrap around it and it begins to distort and push the paint around, right? But imagine that in the opposite direction where the circle is held flat and the paint is risen up to it. And that's kind of what it felt like. The music surrounded and embodied that core element there. It was just a very warm, resonating moment for me of taking something that is simple and subdued and a bit vulnerable and putting this larger, wider, bigger, fuller, protective element around it. Says, the music kind of told me at that moment, yes, you are fragile, and that's okay. Let me cuddle you up with sounds. And it was just such a phenomenal way to bring it into that full sound that they utilized through the rest of the track. Just such a warm moment, especially since I didn't know, because like the audio was distant. It felt unusually quiet, alone. I don't know. It didn't feel very full. It was such an anemic sound. And it very well, they could have left the track like that. We've listened to songs that just have anemic productions from start to finish. But then to have that nice crescendo with the rest of it kind of coming in and providing that support, that is just such a good moment. So we get into this first moment though with the full band. What's going on here? We have our vocalist, who is utilizing this very nice jumping and falling idea. Da 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 da, something along those lines. And I love how no matter how many times they make that massive jump to get up, they continue to descend. And I feel a lot of that in the song emotionally. I had mentioned there at the end that it's a bit of I don't remember the word I used, but it's poppy, right? I'm not going to say that this is a song that feels doomy and gloomy or sad or angry. It's bright ish, kind of. Maybe a better word is optimistic. But there's a sadness in here. There's a part of the song that just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel powerful. It doesn't feel happy or any of those positive emotions. It's not enough to drag the song down into being a ballad or anything like that, but it's just enough of a tinge for it not to feel like it is a totally bright track. There's a melancholy here. And I think it's really interesting that that overall vibe of like optimistic sorrow, a positive outlook for the future, but a negative situation in the present is so much of that idea. They put the effort in, they make the progress, but they can't stick it. They continue to drop back down where they were. Do 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 do, and it's just a cycle, right? Even when the cycle breaks, it isn't to gain ground in the same way. It's more of just keeping some footing during the fall. um, really interesting lines there. We don't see anything like that in the chorus. I don't think, maybe that was the chorus line. I'd have to give it another listen. But that line just, it stuck in my head. Like, it was like the second time it came up, and I was like, this is just, exactly the emotional landscape that we're getting from the chords, just in movement form, in melodic form. So the vocals are doing their thing in the spotlight. They are taking up this lead element. What is everyone else doing though? There are atmosphere, everything. There is not a single other instrument that really takes a lead element. It's all about chord progression or texture. And I don't think that's going to be atypical for the week. Folk, whether we're looking at something like this that's a bit more Americana, or if we look at something like Fleet Foxes, which is a bit more, I guess we could say classic folk rather than more of a modern folk like this. Um, it just, it's not a style of music that I tend to associate deep, complex, melodic composition. I'm not expecting counterpoint. I'm not expecting, huge sweeping melodies. I'm not expecting anything in that vein. I'm really thinking of something more like this, where we have a strong foundational element, lots of chords, lots of layers, but not a lot of movement. Really building the scene more so than digging into the storytelling itself, if that makes sense. Telling the story through the the melody. More so here we're going to see telling the story through atmosphere, right? Setting the emotional field. Um, and that's what we have. We have like two guitars, a lower end instrument. It did not sound like a bass guitar to me, but it did sound stringed, it sounded plucked, and it was lower register. We have some light drumming and then some light string work, I think. And all of it is just really there to play these chords and lay into that. Some instruments are just holding out notes. We have an acoustic guitar that's just strumming along, changing the chord as they go, but not really changing their eighth note structure. And they do a fantastic job of just creating this emotional atmosphere to the section, to all the sections, honestly. It is what the instruments are designed to do, and it's what they do best here. Not designed, chosen to do. Like I said, every instrument's really here to create that foundational component. So we go from here into the chorus, though, and the chorus is interesting because there's something I wanted to. There's one more thing I want to talk about in the verse before we move on. There is this hazy warbliness in the background. I don't remember if it's in the chorus. It's certainly in the verse, though. And it makes the whole thing feel very dreamlike, which I think is a word I used during the reaction. It just has this kind of vibe going on through the entire section. And it just, like I said, just gives me the notion of that. I noticed a couple of the words I picked up in the lyrics were past tense. We did this, or we went here, or we were on the bus mall. It's all we were. And I wonder if that waviness is supposed to induce the concept of memories, remembering things, to kind of differentiate it from anything that would be right now, present. All right, so yeah, I wanted to bring that up real quick because I think it's a very interesting detail. The curse, the curse, the chorus continues on with a lot of what we're already doing as far as instrumental roles. However, we shift over to this interesting idea of threes. I don't know if it was visible, I did a lot of counting. The whole song is very definitely in four. However, the second time through the chorus, I picked up on this idea of a 3 against 4 polyrhythm. And it is present. It isn't super strong, but it is present at times. And to me, it just feels slightly out of place. Like one of the instruments just isn't really lining up on that 4. They're kind of leaning into a triplet vibe, but it isn't really pushing for the triplets. It's just kind of hovering around them, and it's kind of a quieter instrument. It just kind of keeps to itself, and it's just this one moment of the song that refuses to line up with the rest. And it creates a polyrhythmic feel without drawing attention to itself. It allows the section to wholly feel like it's in 4/4, unless you really pay attention to it. It is only out of place when you look at it. Otherwise, you don't realize that it doesn't belong there. It's really interesting. On top of that, though, we also have an idea of 3 in our vocal idea. We are in 4/4, so we have 4 beats per bar. Across 2 bars, we have 8 beats. But our vocalist doesn't decide to split that up symmetrically. The cymbals are symmetric. Every beat gets it. The snare and the bass kick, they're symmetric. The rhythm can be divided up equally into each 4-beat bar, and thus the 8-beat 2-bar set. The vocals, though, decide instead of breaking it up every 2 or 4 beats with symmetry, we're going to go 3-3-2. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3. So you get the ba 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 da ba da ba ba da ba ba da ba, and you get that rush at the end. You feel like it should be another pocket of 3, but you don't get it. You get 2 instead. And when you're expecting to have that final moment to relax before getting ready to land on your next accented hit, you're already there. You thought you had one more beat of rest. And it's just this rushing, it's this tripping over itself. It's asymmetric while also introducing momentum to the section, which is typically why you would do this. I'm not saying that they've broken new grounds with this. The 3-3-2 subdivision of 2 bars of 4/4 is commonly utilized to create a rushing feeling near the end. It's the reason why you use anything asymmetric if you want to create a rushing or a dragging vibe in your core temp or your core rhythm. But I think it's interesting here. I don't remember what it was in the verse. During the reaction, I had said that something feels like it doesn't belong there. Then we talked about this instrument that's playing a 3 against the 4 that feels like it doesn't belong there. And now we have this vocal melody, while everybody else is keeping time with 4/4, doing its own thing, being out of place, while also forcing the song to feel like it's rushing. Not only are they out of place, but they're disrupting the general flow. This idea of being different is all over this track. There is always at least one element that is kind of just doing its own thing. It's really neat, and I'm kind of interested in what the lyrics are going to take us to see if this is a theme that's going to be showing up in there at all. I could just be reading into it, which is not unusual. I'm usually pretty good at picking up on musical storytelling, but you know, it's not always something that lines up well with the lyrics, so we'll see when we get in there. Um, and I think that was about it, right? We had the verse, we had the chorus, and I feel like there's one more section. I'm gonna cheat a second because I feel like there was a bridge, and I just cannot think of what that was. So I'm gonna jump back to like 3 minutes in and see what's going on there.
We reigned at the pool hall with one iron cue ball, and we never let the bastards get us down.
Still that falling idea. Anyways.
Up in closure and folding, our hands tightly holding for you. We're kings among runaways on the bus mall.
Huh. So there wasn't a bridge. That's why I didn't remember one. I do like that ending, though. There's something very positive about it. And especially our final chord. The song ends on a very positive, full resolution. There is definitely hope, despite some of the dreariness in the track. There is hope for the future. The music tells us things are going to get better. And then there's also that really nice fade out there at the end that I adore. Speaking of the fade out, so many moments in here are that were my favorite, that really stood out to me, is little nuanced ideas of dynamics. And this song is a joy to listen to if you're paying attention to the dynamic qualities, whether it is width or volume or power or instrumentation or just any of it. There is something in this track that will have a rise or a fall, a very gradual gain or release of said dynamic aspect. And it's just so good to hear crescendos and decrescendos and even minor ones. Like, of course, we have the fade in, and at the end, we have the fade out. Those are very prominent crescendos and decrescendos, but also little tiny ones that are like at the end of a bar, and you'll get this nice little 2-beat fade out, and then maybe like bringing it back in. I think there was one moment there where we kind of dipped the volume down a little bit and brought it back up, almost like a wave. And it was just so good. Whoever composes this, I don't know if it's one person or everybody in the band, but yeah, they have a knack for the nuance. And I think that's what really draws me to at least this song. I can't quite remember the other one, but I think I need to go listen to it again and refresh my memory after listening to this. Because there are so many little ideas that most bands I don't think would really care about. Like I've mentioned before, I mean, folk and indie rock are kind of gonna. I feel like they have to deal a little bit more with nuanced ideas like this rather than rock or metal. And I've talked about this before. It's just more difficult to achieve the classical style of nuance in a performance with electric instruments. there is a totally different type of nuanced performance that we've seen with electric guitars. There have definitely been people who have innovated in the way of, was it emotional kind of playing or emotive kind of playing? I think that's the word I wanted for. And really being able to make their instruments speak and give them unique ways of phrasing notes rather than just playing them straight. But there is a bit of a limitation because of the electric nature of the instruments, whereas something that's purely acoustic has a very different array of opportunities for personalized playing of notes, which is something I've spoken about a lot in regards to classical music and how you play classical music and how it's very different from how you play metal music. Not really going to get into that today, but yeah, I just absolutely love the little nuance here, and I think a lot of it does come down to the fact that the band does play a majority of acoustic instruments, and I think there's just something about that that I don't think forces people to look at more of the nuanced performance aspect of the instrument, but it does tend to go a bit more hand in hand. All right, I guess that wraps that up. We've picked up on quite a few themes, explored some of the compositional techniques being utilized to achieve said emotions and themes out of here. Let's dig into some lyrics. In matching blue raincoats, our shoes were our showboats. We kicked around from stairway to station, we made a sensation with the gadabout crowd, and oh, what a bargain, we're two easy targets for the old men at the off tracks who have paid in palaver, and crumpled old dollars which he squirreled away in our rat trap hotel by the freeway, and we slept in Sundays. So our narrator is not isolated, which is kind of what I thought they were going for. Although I guess that kind of makes sense with the fade in at the beginning, bringing the sound around our narrator. Maybe our narrator feels vulnerable outside of a group, which is why this one, we see often we kicked around, we made a sensation. Although he says we're two easy targets. Maybe it's not a group, maybe it's just a really good friend. Uh, Romantic partner? I don't know. Whoever it is, they seem to really enjoy just kind of running around town with them. Also taking old dollars from old men, crumpled old dollars, um, which we squirreled away. Oh, they have a little hotel by the freeway. Your parents were anxious, your cool was contagious at the old school, you left without leaving a note for your grieving, sweet mother. While your brother was so cruel, and here in the alleys your spirit was rallied as you learned quick to make a fast buck in bathrooms and bar rooms or on dumpsters and heirlooms, we bit our tongue, sucked our lips into our lungs till we were falling. Such was our calling. So yeah, there's definitely a massive respect, if not some sort of crush or infatuation on this person. I mean, even just goes to say your cool was contagious. They obviously look up to this person. Um, but it says your spirits were rallied in the alleys as you learned how to make a quick buck in bathrooms and bar rooms. I mean, there aren't a lot of jobs that you can do on the streets for fast bucks. It's possible we're talking about sex workers here. Let's keep going. And here in our hollow we fuse like a family, but I will not mourn for you. So take up your makeup and pocket your pills away. We are kings among runaways. On the bus mall, we're down on the bus mall. I wish I knew what a bus mall was. I don't know how integral it is to this. I think I'm still picking up on the core ideas here, but I'm really intrigued. I'm thinking of like a portable mall, which sounds very cool. Like a food truck. but a caravan of food trucks that also sell trinkets. So you have your portable food court and your portable shops. It sounds kind of neat, but I don't think that's what it is. Um, Interesting, it says that I will not mourn for you. So take up your makeup and pocket your pills. Unless there's, see, are the pills necessary? Are they medical? Or are we talking about controlled substances? I will not mourn for you. I mean, we have somebody who obviously enjoys the company of someone else. Maybe this is their way of saying that if you passed, I won't be sad about it, right? I'll be, I'll find contention in the time we spent together. I'll look back on our time fondly rather than, be sad that you've been taken kind of vibe. But here in our hollow, we fuse like a family, but I will not mourn for you. I don't know. Among all the urchins and old Chinese merchants of the old town, we reigned at the pool hall with one iron cue ball, and we never let the bastards get us down, and we laughed off the quick tricks, the old men with limp dicks on the colonnades of the waterfront park. As 4 in the morning came on, cold and boring, we huddled close in the bus stop, enclosed and folding, our hands tightly holding. Love the way this entire stanza comes together linguistically. Just the way that we have all these syllables that just kind of run into and fold around each other and just come off the tongue in a way that is so elegant and effortless. Beautiful writing. Um, but see, I kind of thought that our narrator was just a person who might have fallen for a sex worker. But here it says we laughed off the quick tricks and the old men with limp dicks, and I'm getting the notion that maybe they're both sex workers that happen to find camaraderie in each other, and through that they've left their old worlds behind. It says you left without leaving a note for your grieving mother. Um, just kind of up and left their house, they're living their old lives and moved on to being sex workers and making fast bucks on the street, as they stated, and living together in a rat trap hotel. Not living a really glamorous life here, but they have each other, and the work may not be exciting or even fun at times, but they find ways to laugh about the negative aspects of work and continue on, huddling close at 4 in the morning, waiting for the bus stop to come and just enjoying each other's company. Life is not great right now, but I have you, and that makes it okay. That's kind of what I'm getting here. After this, we go back into the chorus, and yeah, I think that's what we're getting here. We have two sex workers who, they're just trying to make it through life, and things could be worse, but they have each other, and that makes things better. And that's a really, it's sad, but it's also powerful. There's a little bit of heartwarmingness to it, but it's still just, I don't know. It gets me because these are two people. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to assume that this is just a story, right? This isn't something that the vocalist is taking from real world experiences. I suppose it might be. I mean, that kind of makes it hit even harder, though. But a lot of this just kind of, it doesn't have to be sex work to be terrible jobs with poor working conditions and poor pay that leaves you living in a junky hotel. that's kind of everyone right now. Um, and it sucks. And my heart goes out for them, but there's also that heartwarming thing of getting through the hard times through friendship. And yes, friends are something that I think more than ever we need. We need that social aspect to help us get through to the next day. And it just makes me really appreciate the friends I do have, the family that I have, and all of you. It sounds kind of cheesy, and this is my I couldn't be here without you guys kind of, uh, you know, tropey YouTube thing, but it's true. I mean, I log on every day. I read through the comments, I chat with you guys, I learn stuff, I make jokes with y'all, and I log on to Discord and just kind of exist. The the CR Discord channel isn't really something that I feel like I run. I mean, I do. I have full administrative power over it, and I'm the one who has to create new, channels and moderate and stuff like that. We do have two moderators, and they're doing a fantastic job. But up until like a few months ago, I was the one who had to like step in and tell people to cool off and ban trolls and stuff like that. But I feel more like a part of the community than an owner of the server. I duck in and every once in a while, a couple times through the day, and I just talk to people like a regular old person. And I honestly consider a lot of people in the Discord my friends. And it helps me get through the day to talk about music and things that are going on and, discuss recent films and stuff like that. It's just, community is really nice. And it really, I don't know, the song just kind of hits me. They've only got each other, but that's enough. It helps them get through the day. And that's just really sweet. And like I said, it lines up with the themes of the music too. There is a downtrodden element in the song. It is not a happy-go-lucky poppy track. There is brightness to it, but it is not a bright song. And I think a lot of that is kind of the silver lining in auditory form where things are bad, but they could be worse. I still have you, and that's the bright hopefulness in it. That's the very warm chordal resolution at the end of the track. That's every moment of this that feels a bit more hopeful for tomorrow than the dreariness of right now. That's every moment of isolation. I mean, even the very beginning starts out with an extremely vulnerable section where something else, another part of the music, comes around and fills up the sound. The life force of the song is strengthened in that moment. It no longer becomes distant and difficult to hear and quiet. It becomes loud and booming when paired with the right sounds. The whole bit of this song is about this, about needing somebody else and them putting a smile on your face in dark days. Such a good song. Those are my thoughts on the Decemberists on the bus mall. What is a someone tell me what a bus mall is, please. This is where you guys come in. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this one or not. Anything you'd like to add to my analysis or correct me on or whatever. Go ahead, hit me up in the comments. Above that, there's a description box, and there's a link for Linktree. Takes you to this menu right here. Has links for everything related to the channel. You can pick up some merch. Join the Discord that I just got done talking about. There's also links to Patreon if you want to help support the channel. Twitter, email, and so much more. Go ahead and check it out. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. All three things help out the channel immensely, and I'm grateful for them. All right. We have a special selection coming up next. Otherwise, tomorrow, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC, as usual, we'll continue on with Folk Week and look at another special selection. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening whenever you choose to watch my videos.